Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Under the Sun podcast. I'm your host, Bryana K. I can't believe I just said that. And I can't believe that that if you're listening to this, that means I posted my first podcast. This has been truly, I don't mean this in exaggeration, years in the making. I have felt since 2022 that I wanted to start a podcast. And to be honest, this has been the scariest thing for me to start. To have something that is solely oral communication kind of terrifies me because I don't know. I feel like I value how people communicate and I want to do it well, I guess. So I've maybe put too much pressure on myself. And yeah, I've wanted to start this for forever, so we're doing it. For the first episode, I kind of just want to give more context to me, what I want this podcast to be, and what the name means. So I chose the name Under the Sun for an array of reasons. I posted about a year ago that I wanted to start a podcast ASAP and I needed help coming up with names. And a girl sent in Under the Sun. And the way that she explained what that meant, it didn't resonate with what I wanted this podcast to be. So for a year, I was set on the name Something About It, and I wanted it to be basically episodes could be something about lupus, something about coffee, something about whatever I'm talking about. And literally last night, I decided again this week, I have to make this podcast. I'm sick of putting it off. There's a reason I felt drawn to do this. I don't know what the reason is. And that name came back to me, Under the Sun. And I thought about this phrase that there's nothing new under the sun and how much that has become so true to me this month. It feels really, what are those phrases that have multiple meanings? Let me look it up. It feels like a double entendre. Am I using that correct? Hopefully, to me, because a big part of this podcast is that I want it to feel super personal in you guys feeling like you really get to know me. And a big part of my life is chronic illness. And part of that is having photosensitivity, which means anytime I go out in the sun, I am at risk of causing a flare-up to my lupus, meaning a sicker season where I'm extra fatigued, extra joint pain, extra slow. And so I can't be in the sun. Even if I lather myself in sunscreen, my body just has a negative reaction to being in the heat. And so I felt like naming this Under the Sun was almost how if I go under the sun, I'm exposing myself to vulnerability. I want this podcast to be me exposing myself to vulnerability with you guys. So that's the personal meaning for me. And then that phrase that there's nothing new under the sun, I feel like what that phrase means is that everything is cyclical and everything that people have experienced since the beginning of time, suffering, love, loss, fear, excitement, joy, has always existed. We are not the first humans to experience fear. We are not the first humans to experience being in love. We're not the first humans to experience anything. And so there's nothing new under the sun just means that all of humanity experiences the same experience, even if everyone's experience is different. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's saying I just want that to be part of the podcast. I want there to be an understanding that we're all people and our stories might look super different, but everyone can empathize with pain, everyone can empathize with joy, and everyone can empathize with the human experience. So, welcome to the Under the Sun podcast. This is a bookmark as my mic, and the reason for that is it was the only thing I could think of that could hold the little microphone up, and my best friend got it from me for my birthday, so thank you, Meredith. The reason I'm starting this podcast on a random Tuesday afternoon is that I'm home alone. I live with my parents and my nephew and my sister and sometimes my brother, and it's a busy house. It's a small house in LA and it is loud most of the time and the walls are thin. So it felt like the right time to just thrust myself into it. I also did not prepare for this, and the thing that I was using as my excuse for not starting this sooner was that I wasn't prepared. So I would tell myself, okay, sometime this week I'll prepare for my first episode. Never happened, and I need to stop using the excuse, so I figured let's throw ourselves into the deep end. I'm 24 years old, born and raised in Southern California, the city of LA. I've only ever moved 45 minutes away from home, aside from the 3 months I spent in Austin at the beginning of this year. Other than that, I am a local. I love it here. I never want to leave, although I'm sure I will I love traveling, I love experiencing new places, and I think one day I want to have chickens, and there's just not room to do that. I love starting new hobbies. They happen every other week, it feels like. Current fixations are scrapbooking because I want to have a scrapbook for every year of my life, and I keep starting them and then not finishing them. So right now I think I'm in April in my scrapbook. Currently scrapbooking, playing tennis, making bookmarks, and reading a lot. I am currently unemployed. Unless you count YouTube as being, I guess I'm not fully unemployed. I can't make a living off of what I currently make on social media. And that is one reason I live at home, because I don't have to pay rent. I want to make YouTube my full-time thing. Ever since I was in 8th grade, I literally loved making videos. I would film PacSun hauls. I would do the whole thing. I would never post because of my fear of people seeing it. I feel like that's the story of everyone who ever wanted to make YouTube videos lives. And sometime when I was in high school, I decided that I was going to make videos anyway, but instead of making like a public channel, I made a public channel that was only for my friend group to see. So I would vlog our weeks and title them week 1, week 2, week 3. And that is on an old YouTube channel, they don't exist anymore. I can't even think of bringing myself to even try to find those or watch them. But after that, I vlogged again once COVID hit, and I only ever vlogged like 2 videos. I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out. And then when I did full-time ministry for a year and a half, I vlogged that, and that's when I started to kind of get traction from Instagram, and then people would kind of come from Instagram and watch on YouTube. Then I left ministry and I was in full-time school, and so I decided that once I was done with school, I would commit full-time to YouTube and that there would be no excuse to not. And then I still haven't finished school, but now I just have 1 class left and it's time to just go full throttle on YouTube. So that's what I've been doing. It's been a load of fun. Literally the most fun I've had creating in so long. I feel like I get to come alive in talking to a camera, but showing more aesthetic, kind of cinematic formats of vlogging, I guess. So that's been really fun for me. The biggest challenge that I face with getting a job is my chronic illness. I was a barista for 2 months at Phil's Coffee in Southern California when I was in college. Then I was a barista at my favorite Orange County coffee shop called Vacancy for literally 2 weeks. And then my back started to hurt so bad, and it didn't feel like normal back pain. It felt like worse. So I went to see my rheumatologist because I have an autoimmune disease. So whenever a weird symptom comes up, I know that it's probably a good idea to go see my doctor. They did x-rays and MRIs of my back and saw a lot of arthritis, basically. So my doctor said that if I have a job where I'm standing on my feet for long increments of time, I could cause permanent, well, I guess arthritis kind of is permanent, but essentially I could cause worse damage to my joints. So he advised me to quit the job, which was literally heart-shattering for me because I love being social, I love making coffee, and it was the most fun job for me. Well, I have yet to have a job since then. I help my dad. I'm kind of an assistant, a very loose term assistant to my dad, who's a psychologist with a private practice in LA. So when random things come up, emails, things he has to send out, I'll help him with that. Other than that, we are grinding on YouTube to make it work. Hopefully that gives you a little more context on me. My mom is from Guatemala. My dad is from New York, Great Neck, New York. So I'm half Latina, half German Jewish. My parents are going to celebrate 30 years of marriage in December, which is insane. I have 2 amazing siblings. I'm the baby, and I definitely act like the child. It feels so funny talking about myself because you kind of have this imposter syndrome feeling where it's like, why would anyone care to get to know me more? But then I think about how much I love getting to know people, and I know that that's not an isolated feeling. I know people love hearing other people's stories. The biggest part of my story that I want to share with you guys as part of the journey of my life is chronic illness. I want to give you guys a timeline of sickness for me. Anytime I post on Instagram about chronic illness, I get flooded with DMs. It is obvious that so many people suffer with sickness, so many people suffer with chronic sickness, with autoimmune diseases, and I think the most isolating thing about it is how alone you feel. I want to talk about my chronic illness in hopes that it gives even one person relief that they're not alone in their sickness. I'm 24 now. Let's backtrack 14 years. I was 10 years old in 5th grade and I started getting fevers of 104 degrees. Doctors had no idea what was going on. Nothing was showing up in my blood yet, and they would only last 4 days. It was almost like I would get the flu cyclically every month. And then one day they stopped, and then I was in 6th grade. I moved to a different school because my elementary school ended obviously in 5th grade, and then in 6th grade you got to go to middle school. And I started getting pain in my left index finger where I just couldn't bend it anymore, and it would only hurt in the mornings, and then as the day went on it felt better. And then slowly and surely that changed from my left index finger to my whole hand, and then my whole hand to both hands to my arms to every part of my body. And then I was 11 years old and I took 45 minutes to get out of bed in the morning before school. Again, no one knew what was going on. My blood work was still coming back pretty normal. I go on a class field trip about a week before turning 12, and it's a trip to Catalina Island where we're camping. I'm in the sun the entire time. No one knows that I'm sick. I don't even know that I'm sick. My family doesn't know that I'm sick. So I'm at Catalina Island kayaking, exposing myself to the UV rays that cause flare-up. The last day we were there, we were taking the tents apart. I remember this so vividly because oh my gosh, this was just such a sad, if I could just see little 11-year-old me experiencing this, I would have taken myself into the biggest bear hug and just held myself. But I was on a field trip, no one knew I was sick. We were taking the tents apart and I was still inside of the tent, which if a tent kind of peg, the part on top of the tent that holds it all together, fell on someone, I don't think it would actually hurt as bad as it hurt me, but my joints, everything was inflamed and on fire. So this part that held the tent together collapsed on my neck, and really I don't think it was more than 5 pounds of weight, and it felt like a ton of bricks fell on my neck. I start weeping. People are laughing because they were like, oh my gosh, like, we're so sorry, we didn't know you were in there, haha. I am in excruciating pain. Never felt pain like that in my neck. 2 weeks later, I know the date in my heart. It's engraved and it will never leave. July 9th, 2012. I woke up out of bed and I couldn't lift my neck or any part of my body out of bed due to how much inflammation and water retention my body was holding on to. So at that point, everyone now is like, red flag, what's going on? We need to figure this out. So I was going to the doctors all the time. Finally, something shows up in my blood. I truly can't remember what it was. I'm sure it was an autoimmune marker. And at that point forward, I start getting on all these medications. I'm on prednisone, which is a steroid. I remember taking like 14 pills a day. And my dad would like dissolve them in applesauce for me because I hated the taste of some of them. Finally, after a couple months, they were able to rule out a few things and rule in others. At the time, I'm not sure if this is different, and I also could be getting this slightly wrong. May I put a disclaimer that this is my personal experience and what I remember from my experience getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. This is not medical advice. This could be so wrong. I could get the story wrong. This is what I remember in my little 12-year-old brain and how it's been told to me since. To be diagnosed with lupus, you had to have 4 out of 11 criterias marked as like, yes, this is what you have. I only ever met 3 out of those 11, so they treated it as lupus, but my doctors at the time were not convinced that that's what I had. They knew I had autoimmune. Then when I was 13, I got a biopsy on my kidneys, which means they took a microscopic amount of my kidney, examined it under a microscope, and they saw immense scarring, irreversible damage to my kidneys, which concluded that I had chronic kidney disease. So as part of lupus, oftentimes a major organ will be involved with the destruction that this autoimmune disease brings. My body, my immune system is confused. Instead of attacking things like colds or flu, it just attacks itself. It attacks healthy tissue. So that's why I have kidney damage, because my own freaking immune system is attacking itself. I got diagnosed with lupus, essentially, and chronic kidney disease stage 3. In the span of 10 years of diagnosis, because I spent 2 years undiagnosed, 10 years diagnosed, I have not shifted much in the range that I've been in, which actually is rare for chronic disease. It tends to progress and get worse over time, and mine has stayed pretty neutral. Praise the Lamb. For that, I'm super thankful to God, genuinely. I'm thankful and grateful for the body I have that works hard to be healthy. even though it ain't working hard enough. Or it's overworking, actually. My body is working too hard and thus it attacks itself. I had to do online school for half of high school because I was missing so much school due to sickness. And sometime when I was 16, I got so much healthier. I was literally basically in remission. I was only on 1 pill a day from literally 12 pills a day to 1. It was a miracle. I was off this medication called Plaquenil, which a lot of people with autoimmune, specifically lupus, have to be on for their whole life. I got off of that, which is supposed to help your joints. So I was in basically zero pain. Then I went on a trip, got back from the trip, huge flare-up right before college. I just turned 18. I was on prednisone again. It was so disheartening. And from then on, I've kind of stayed in this symptom of fatigue, brain fog, and not just fatigue like I'm kind of tired, I could take a nap. Fatigue like I can't open my eyes, I can't drive my car. I am in pain from how tired I am, and it's debilitating. That has been the worst symptom I've had, and the one that I wish I could manage, but my doctors genuinely don't know what causes fatigue. It is one of the biggest symptoms of lupus, and it goes the most kind of under the radar of we don't know how to help, we don't know what to do, we don't know why you're experiencing this. They've tried different medications, none of which have worked for me, and I'm really not about just stuffing my body with medication. I take 2 right now religiously. That one is to prevent further kidney damage, and then one is that Plaquenil that is supposed to help with joint pain, and it's actually supposed to help with fatigue, although we have not seen that one come through. That's a little more of my story with chronic illness. The reason I think chronic illness plays a huge, massive role in my life is because it interacts and interferes with every part of my life. There are days I can't read, which is like one of my favorite things to do. And there are days my brain fog hurts so much that I'm reading the same paragraph probably 30 times, and it's more disheartening to keep reading than to just put the book down and do something else. Before this week, I had not seen a single friend of mine outside of my boyfriend in 1 month. A whole month. That is 1/12 of my year that I got to not partake in social interaction because of sickness. So to say that lupus interferes with my day-to-day life wouldn't even scratch the surface of what it feels like due to how lonely chronic illness can be, because the reality is I sit here, right here in this bed. So much of my time is spent sitting here reading books, scrolling on TikTok, sometimes texting friends back, sometimes not for weeks, and how would I tell you that that's not so lonely? It can be so lonely at times. There are times I just cry for hours about being sick. I'll cry about being so tired. I'll cry about not getting to feel like I get to live a normal life or have a normal job or get to do all these things. Or I'll get frustrated that there are healthy people that aren't utilizing their health, which is just silly, but it's such an injustice to be sick, and there are times that the injustice gets so frustrating that there's nothing I can do but cry. I'll often get asked, and it's a good question to even just think about for yourself, is how do you deal with hopelessness? I think the vast majority of humans will experience hopelessness. Whether you haven't dated someone in a long time and you're feeling hopeless that you'll ever find the one, or you deal with chronic sickness and you're hopeless that you'll never get better, or there's a relationship in your life, a family member that is estranged and you're hopeless that it'll never be reconciled. We all deal with hopelessness. I want this to be a place where people that aren't religious, are religious, can find comfort, can find truth. And so this is more me sharing my journey, but hopefully something here can resonate with you. I personally have faith in God. If I didn't believe that Jesus can heal people, I truly don't know how I would find my hope, because I've seen people, friends of mine, healed of autoimmune diseases, never sick another day of their life. If I didn't believe that God could do that to my body, I just don't live with the thought that this is my forever. I refuse to believe that I will deal with fatigue and sickness like this my whole life. Surely there is something out there that can relieve symptoms. Surely there is something out there that can help with pain. And I've seen those things true. I've seen myself have seasons where I'm healthier and times where I'm not suffering as deeply. I've seen people come through as the most amazing friends. And what's crazy about loneliness is we don't realize how much people want to be there for us. I hadn't seen a friend, like I said, in a month, and I never told any of my friends that I just can't drive long distances right now. And as soon as I said that, literally a handful of my friends texted me and were like, we will come pick you up. It is a 50-minute drive for them to do that. And they said, we will come pick you up and drop you off to spend time with you. The thought of someone driving 50 minutes out of their way to see me and to hang out with me burdens me. Like, I feel bad being this burden to people, and that's just not the way my friends see it. And if I were to have a friend that said to me that they felt like a burden, and I could do something to alleviate that feeling, I would do it in a heartbeat. And so I think believing that you're not a burden relieves hopelessness as well. There are times I cry to my boyfriend, Lyndon, about feeling so bad that he has to deal with a sick girlfriend. And he will say to me, have I ever once complained? Have I ever once said that you are a burden, that I don't want to do these things for you? It is a joy for him to serve me. It is a joy for my friends to serve me and to be there for me and to love me. And you're not asking too much to need help. That is literally the point of human connection, is to be there for one another. My hope is that if you're listening to this, you are thinking of a person that you know is there for you, that you know you can lean on, that you can count on. Whether it's a family member, a close friend, or if you don't feel like you have that person yet, I hope this podcast makes you feel like you're not alone. It feels kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say cringe, but it just feels kind of corny to be like, we're not alone, guys. I feel like it's a message a lot of people preach, but I want that to feel true. And I don't want to just say that without, I guess, action behind that. And so this is my ultimate desire for this podcast. Eventually, I want to make an Instagram account for it. And one of my favorite things to do is write letters. My favorite thing for my friends' birthdays is to write them in a handwritten note. My favorite gift on my birthday is handwritten notes. I have a P.O. box, and I want the Instagram account for the Under the Sun podcast to be a place where I post your guys' letters and snail mail and things that you send in to my P.O. box. Whether it's a letter anonymously written by you where you just dump your heart out and share your inner thoughts, your fears, your best moments of your life, or you sign it and you have questions that you want answered on this podcast, or you just want to share your story. I want to have this Instagram where I'm posting these on and sharing your story with this community, and a place where you can feel validated, where you can feel seen, where you can feel loved and noticed. And I'm gonna write letters back to you guys. I am coming out with bookmarks. I want to send some of these bookmarks out to people that write into my P.O. box. And so I think sometimes I'll end these episodes with prompts for the P.O. box for your letter, but this week, I just want you guys to send in a letter. The P.O. box will be in the description, and I just want to hear from you. I'm going to pull it up, so if you're watching this on video, you'll be able to see this. This is my box of letters that I've received from strangers. It is my prized possession, truly, in life. A year ago, or a year and a half ago on Thanksgiving, I put on my story, open internationally, I want to send letters to people. So I sent about 45 letters out, and I opened a P.O. box, and people started sending me letters, and I got pictures of people in their relationships, pictures of their dogs, letters of girls in high school, women in their 30s, and truly has been so fun to realize there's so many people in the world that we can connect to, that we can relate to, that share similar feelings as you and as me. And I don't know, one of the greatest gifts I truly believe is human connection. And so I'll read these letters sometimes and be in awe that someone out there that is a stranger to me wanted to write me a letter sharing more about their life. My P.O. box, again, will be in the description. If you want to write a letter, I want you to share who you are, things you love, your biggest fears, your biggest wins, your biggest joys, your favorite color. I actually genuinely love knowing people's favorite color, because there's always a reason you have a favorite color. Mine changes often, but ultimate favorite, I do believe, is blue. Wait, this is so funny. I'm wearing blue on blue. And I also believe God's favorite color is blue or green, because there's so much grass, there's so many trees, the sky is blue, the ocean is blue, the world is blue and green. I just love how vast it is, how comforting it is. That's my favorite color. Currently though, I have a fixation on the color pink. Ever since Barbie pink last summer, the more kind of muted down Barbie pink, mauve pink, I just love it. I love it so much. That's my favorite color right now. Anyway, please send me a letter. Let me know if I can feature it on the Instagram. If not, you can tell me. Put it in the letter that you want it to be private, and I will keep it just to myself. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me on yet another journey of mine. I have no idea where this podcast will go. It genuinely does terrify me to start one. It's so vulnerable, but that's what Under the Sun is. So I love you guys. I hope you have the best day and that you drink a really good matcha or coffee today. Bye.